The Karma of Marriage, a Zen teaching. Why you marry the one you marry. Deep in the mountains of Kyoto, where cherry blossoms whisper ancient secrets to the wind, lived a Zen master whose wisdom transcended words. His name was Takeshi, and for decades he had observed people coming to him with a question that echoed in their hearts like an unresolved koan. Why did I marry the one I married? This is not a story about fate or chance. It is a teaching about the invisible dance of karma, about how our souls choose the perfect companions for our spiritual growth, even when our minds do not understand the choice. It is the revelation that every marriage is a sacred mirror, a dojo where we practice the deepest of martial arts, unconditional love. Have you ever wondered why your heart chose that person out of millions? Why, despite the differences and challenges, something in your soul recognized something in theirs? This Zen teaching will guide you through 8 stages toward a deep understanding of marital karma, where you will discover that every conflict is a lesson, every moment of tenderness is a blessing, and every shared day is an opportunity to awaken. Prepare to enter a wisdom that will transform your perception of love, marriage, and your own spiritual path. Chapter 1: The River of Soulmates, where 2 streams meet for the first time. At the Monastery of 1,000 Cranes, Master Takeshi often gazed at the river flowing beside the temple. 2 streams of water, born in distant mountains, converged right in front of his window, creating small whirlpools where their waters mingled for the very first time. One morning, a young couple came to him, their faces marked by confusion and pain. They had been married only 2 years, yet they already felt they had made a terrible mistake. "Master," the woman said with tears in her eyes, "we believed we were soulmates, but now we only see our differences. How could we have been so wrong?" Takeshi smiled gently and pointed to the river. "Look at those 2 streams. One comes from the northern glacier, cold and crystal clear. The other rises from the warm southern springs, rich with minerals. When they meet, they do not become identical. Their waters swirl, clash, create turbulence." The couple followed his gaze, watching how the different waters created complex patterns where they joined. "But look further downstream," the master continued. "Where the waters have traveled together for a while, they no longer fight each other. They have learned to flow as one river, deeper and more powerful than each stream on its own." The husband frowned. "Are you saying our problems are natural?" "I am saying that karma did not bring you together to be the same, but so that each of you might become more whole. You bring the fire of passion. She brings the wisdom of water. In your initial clash lies the promise of something greater, the steam that rises to the heavens." Takeshi stood and walked to a small tea ceremony he had prepared. The first mistake of modern marriage is to believe that love means the absence of conflict. But from the perspective of karma, you chose, before you were even born, the exact soul you needed to grow with. Your differences are not obstacles. They are tools. As he prepared the tea, he continued, "The moment 2 souls recognize each other is not because they are identical, but because each sees in the other the missing piece of its spiritual puzzle. Your soul knew it needed to learn patience, so it chose someone who would challenge you to develop it. Her soul knew it needed to learn to express emotions, so it chose someone who would invite her to open up." The woman stopped crying. "So our problems are lessons? Every argument is a sutra you are writing together. Every moment of misunderstanding is an invitation to develop deeper compassion. The karma of marriage is not cruel. It is infinitely wise." The master poured the tea into 2 different cups, one rustic ceramic, the other delicate porcelain. "Which cup is better?" he asked. "Both serve their purpose," the husband replied. "Exactly. In karmic marriage, there is no right person and wrong person. There are two perfect vessels chosen to contain the experience your souls came to live together. Chapter 1 Teaching. Marital karma does not unite souls by compatibility but by complementarity. Every difference between spouses is a divine invitation to mutual growth. Chapter 2. The Mirror of 1,000 Reflections, where we see who we are through the one we love. Weeks later, the young couple returned to the monastery, this time accompanied by another couple, middle-aged, who had been married for 15 years. "Master," said the older man, "we have heard of your teachings. We no longer fight like these young ones, but neither do we feel the passion we once had. Is this also karma?" Takeshi led them to a special garden within the monastery, where mirrors of different shapes and sizes had been placed among the plants and flowers. "Walk along this path," he instructed, "but do not look directly into the mirrors. Only observe what they reflect." As they walked, each mirror showed different aspects of their image. Some made them look taller, others wider. Some reflected only their eyes, others only their hands intertwined. "In marriage," Takeshi began, "your spouse is your truest mirror, not because they show you how you look physically, but because they reveal who you are spiritually." They stopped before a particularly intriguing mirror that seemed to ripple gently. "Observe this mirror. When the water is agitated, the image is distorted. When it is calm, it reflects with perfect clarity. This is how marital karma works at different stages." The young woman touched the surface of the water mirror. "So the first years are the stage of agitated water?" "Exactly. In the first years, you are learning to see yourselves through the other. Everything that bothers you about your partner is something you need to heal within yourself. Everything you admire is something you already possess but have not yet recognized." The older man nodded slowly. "And then comes the calm. Then comes understanding. After years of seeing yourselves reflected in one another, you begin to recognize that what you see outside was always inside. But here lies a new karmic lesson." Takeshi guided them to a garden where two ancient trees had grown so close together that their branches intertwined completely. "These trees have grown side by side for 100 years. Do you see how their branches have fused? They are no longer two separate trees, yet they are not one either. They have found union without losing their individual identity." The older woman sighed. "Sometimes I feel we have lost who we were before we married." "That is the great illusion of mature marital karma," the master replied. "You believe you have lost yourselves, when in truth you have found expanded versions of who you are. The mirror of marriage has revealed aspects of your being you could never have discovered alone." He pointed to the intertwined roots beneath the trees. "Look underground. Their roots are also entwined, sharing nutrients, supporting each other through the storms. This is what happens to souls that have walked together for years. They develop an invisible web of support that transcends personality." The young man asked, "So boredom in marriage also has a karmic purpose?" "Boredom is the soul's invitation to go deeper. When the surface no longer excites you, it is time to explore the depths. Karma did not bring you together just to make you happy. It brought you together to make you whole." Chapter 2 Teaching. In karmic marriage, your partner is the truest mirror of your soul. Everything you see in the other, what you love and what you reject, is information about your own spiritual journey. Chapter 3. The Dance of Shadows, where we face what we would rather not see. A month later, a woman arrived alone at the monastery, her face hardened by years of resentment. "Master," she said in a tense voice, "I have heard your teachings on marital karma, but what happens when your partner hurts you repeatedly? Is that also a lesson?" Takeshi invited her to sit in a garden where the shadows of the trees created intricate patterns on the ground. "Tell me about these wounds," he said softly. My husband is selfish, controlling. He always has to be right. He makes me feel small, invisible. We've lived this way for 12 years. And you, how do you respond to that? The woman was taken aback by the question. I try to please him to avoid conflict. But inside, I judge him constantly. I criticize him in my mind all the time. Takeshi pointed to the shadows on the ground. Do you see these shadows? They exist only because there is light. Without light, there would be no shadows. And without shadows, we could never fully appreciate the light. He stood and walked toward a particularly defined shadow. In karmic marriage, your partner does not only reflect your luminous qualities. They also project the shadows you would rather not see in yourself. Are you saying I am like my husband? The indignation in her voice was unmistakable. I am suggesting that you explore that possibility. You say he is controlling. How do you exercise control in the relationship? It took the woman several minutes to respond. I control by keeping the peace. I control by avoiding conflict. I control by being the victim. And you say he is selfish. When are you selfish? Another long silence. When I martyr myself. When I sacrifice to make him feel guilty. When I use my pain as a weapon. Takeshi nodded with compassion. The most difficult marital karma to understand is the one that places us face to face with our own shadows. Your husband is acting out aspects of you that you have repressed, and you are acting out aspects of him that he has repressed. They walked toward a fountain where falling water created both light and shadow. But Master, how can this be fair? Why must I suffer in order to learn? The deeper question is not why you must suffer, but why you chose to learn in this way. Before you were born, your soul chose this specific path of growth. Not because it was masochistic, but because it knew this experience would lead you to an understanding you could not reach otherwise. Takeshi cupped a handful of water from the fountain. Look at this water. To become pure, it must pass through filters, be pressed, be cleansed. The process is not comfortable for the water, but it is necessary for its purity. Your marriage is the purification process your soul chose. So should I stay in a toxic relationship? You must remain in the process of learning. But learning can mean transforming the relationship from within, or it can mean completing the lesson and leaving. Only you can know which is your path. The key is to leave from wisdom, not from reactivity. How will I know the difference? When you can look at your husband with compassion instead of resentment, when you can thank him for being your most challenging teacher, then you will know the lesson is complete. At that moment, you will be able to choose consciously whether to continue the relationship from a new place or whether it is time to walk separate paths. Chapter 3 Teaching. The most challenging marital karma places us face to face with our own shadows. What we most reject in our partner is often what we most need to integrate within ourselves. Chapter 4. The Garden of Seasons, where we learn that every marriage has natural cycles. With the change of season, a young couple who had just married, radiant with happiness, arrived at the monastery, accompanied by their parents, who had been married for 30 years and seemed to have lost all spark. "Master," said the bride, "we want to know how to keep this love alive forever. My parents say it's impossible, that love always fades. Is that true?" Takeshi led them to a special garden divided into 4 sections, each representing a season of the year. "Observe this garden," he said. "In spring, everything is an explosion of color, new life, promises of fruit. In summer, abundance is at its peak. In autumn, there is a different beauty, the wisdom of what has matured. In winter, there is apparent death, but in truth, profound regeneration." They first walked to the spring section, where cherry trees bloomed in exuberant splendor. The first years of marriage are like this karmic spring. Everything is new, exciting, full of possibility. You discover each other. Each day brings revelations. It is beautiful, but also fragile. The bride's mother sighed. I remember that time. Then comes the marital summer, Takeshi continued, guiding them to the lushest part of the garden. Here you build together house, family, career. It is the time of greatest external productivity. There is less spontaneous romance, but more solid construction. The groom's father nodded. Those were intense years. Good years, but intense. Then comes the autumn of marriage, said the master, stopping before trees heavy with golden fruit. Children grow, careers stabilize. There is less dramatic passion, but more depth. It is when you truly come to know each other, when love becomes wiser. And the winter? The bride asked with some fear. They entered the section where the trees stood bare, yet their roots were visibly deeper and stronger. Marital winter is the most misunderstood. It looks as if nothing alive remains on the surface. Many couples separate here, believing love has died. But look at the roots. He pointed to the intricate network of intertwined roots underground. In winter, all the tree's energy concentrates in its roots. In marriage, this is when external love turns inward. It is less visible but deeper than ever. It is the love that transcends passion, rooted in the recognition of the soul. The groom's mother, who had remained silent, finally spoke. We are in winter. I thought we had failed. Failure would be trying to make winter into spring. Every season of marital karma has its own beauty and purpose. Takeshi sat on a bench from which all 4 seasons could be seen at once. But here is the secret that very few couples understand. The seasons are cyclical, not linear. After the first winter comes a new spring, but it is a different spring. More conscious, more profound. Do you mean we can fall in love again? Asked the bride's father. You can fall in love many times with the same person, but each time will be different. In the second spring, you fall in love not only with who your partner is, but with who you have become together. In the second summer, you build not only external things, but shared wisdom. 8 eyes looked at him in fascination. Marital karma is infinitely generous. It gives you as many opportunities to rediscover each other as you are willing to take. But you must understand that every season has its perfection. Do not try to force spring in winter, nor demand autumn's fruit in spring. Chapter 4 Teaching. Every karmic marriage passes through natural seasons. The mistake is to resist the natural cycle or to judge one season by the standards of another. Each phase has its own perfection and purpose. Chapter 5. The Bridge of Sacred Communication. Where words become medicine or poison. One stormy afternoon, a couple in evident crisis arrived at the monastery. Even while waiting to be received, they exchanged reproachful looks and sighed with exasperation. Master, said the husband before even sitting down, we can't communicate anymore. Everything I say is wrong. Everything she says annoys me. How can karma explain this? His wife immediately added, he never truly listens to me. He only waits for his turn to defend himself. Takeshi observed them for a moment, noticing how even their bodies were turned to avoid direct eye contact. Follow me, he said simply, and led them to a bamboo bridge that crossed a small stream. In the center of the bridge, he had placed 2 cushions, one facing the other. Sit here. He on the east side, she on the west. Once seated, he continued, now, for the next 10 minutes, you may not talk about problems, complaints, or reproaches. You may only share one thing, what you saw in the other when you decided to marry. But master, protested the woman, that was 8 years ago. Exactly, before the wounds covered the original vision. After an awkward silence, The husband began timidly. I saw that she was the most generous person I had ever met. With her friends, with her family, with me. She looked at him in surprise. She had forgotten that he once saw her that way. I saw, she said after a pause, that he was someone who truly cared, that when he said he would do something, he did it, that he was reliable. Their voices softened as they remembered. Now, said Takeshi after they had shared for several minutes, I want you to understand something about the karma of marital communication. Do you notice where you are sitting? They looked around. They were at the center of a bridge, above flowing water, with solid ground on both ends. Sacred marital communication requires both of you to meet in neutral territory. Not in her territory or in his, but in a sacred space between you. The bridge. How do we reach this bridge when we're in the middle of a fight? Asked the wife. First rule of karmic communication. Before speaking, ask yourselves if you are about to build the bridge or burn it. Your words carry karmic power. They create the reality you will live together. Takeshi also sat on the bridge, forming a triangle with them. Second rule. Speak from your wound, not from your anger. Anger is the wound defending itself. But when you speak from the wound itself, the other's heart opens automatically. Can you give us an example? Asked the husband. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, which is anger, say, I feel invisible when you talk about other things while I'm sharing something important, which is the wound. The woman nodded slowly. It feels very different. Third rule. Remember that you are speaking to your most important spiritual teacher. This person came into your life to teach you something crucial about love. Even in conflict, especially in conflict. And what if the other person doesn't follow these rules? Asked the husband. You can only control your part of karmic communication. But when one person genuinely changes their way of communicating, the whole system begins to shift. It's impossible to sustain a fight when only one person is fighting. He showed them how the water flowed beneath the bridge. Look at this stream. When it encounters a stone, it doesn't fight against it. It flows around it, gently shapes it, and eventually transforms it. Karmic communication is like water, persistent yet soft, powerful yet non-violent. Does this mean we should never express anger? It means you must express anger consciously, not unconsciously. I'm angry because it hurts me that you forgot our anniversary is very different from, you're a careless person who doesn't care about anything. They rose from the bridge, and Takeshi noticed that they now walked closer to one another. Teaching of Chapter 5. In marital karma, every word is a seed we plant in the garden of our relationship. Sacred communication requires meeting in neutral territory and speaking from the wound, not from the defense. Chapter 6. The alchemy of forgiveness, where wounds are transformed into wisdom. 2 weeks later, the woman who had once come alone returned to the monastery, this time accompanied by her husband. Both looked different. There was less tension in their faces, but also a certain gravity, as if they had been doing deep inner work. Master, she said, I have been practicing what you taught me about the shadows. I have seen my own patterns of control and victimization, but now I have a harder question. How do you forgive years of mutual wounds? Her husband added, we have both done hurtful things. We have been cruel with words. We have broken promises. Is it possible for karma to allow us to start again? Takeshi led them to a section of the garden they had never seen before. An ancient alchemy laboratory with glass vessels, herbs hanging to dry, and a small furnace burning. Do you know the art of alchemy? He asked as he lit a special candle. Turning common metals into gold? The woman replied. That is external alchemy, mastered by very few. But there is also inner alchemy, which every karmic marriage is destined to learn. transforming the lead of wounds into the gold of forgiveness. He took a vessel containing what looked like very dark, almost black soil. This soil comes from a forest that was devastated by fire 3 years ago. It looks like pure death, doesn't it? They both nodded. But watch this. He took some seeds and planted them in the blackened soil. The ashes of what was destroyed become the most fertile ground for new life. The fire did not only destroy, it also enriched. He guided them toward the furnace, where small flames danced constantly. In marital alchemy, forgiveness does not mean pretending the wounds never happened. It means transforming pain into understanding, anger into compassion, separation into a deeper connection. But how? Asked the husband. Sometimes I feel so much resentment that I don't know if it's possible to overcome it. The first step is to understand that resentment is attachment to the past. It is like carrying a burning stone, waiting for it to burn the other person. The alchemy of forgiveness begins when you realize you are the one being burned. Takeshi took 2 small glass vessels. Place here your deepest wounds, not the words, but the energetic essence of the pain. It was a silent, profound process. Both closed their eyes and, after several minutes, seemed to have deposited something invisible into their vessels. Now, said the master, we will practice true alchemy. You will transform these wounds into teachings. How? Ask yourselves, what did this wound teach me about myself? What strength did I develop that I didn't have before? What understanding did I gain about love, about boundaries, about my own power? The woman spoke first. My wound taught me that I had been living to please others instead of honoring my own truth. It forced me to find my voice. Her husband followed. My wound showed me that my need for control came from fear. It taught me that true love requires vulnerability. Do you see what just happened? Asked Takeshi. You transformed lead into gold. The wound is no longer just pain. Now it is wisdom. He mixed the contents of both vessels into a larger one. But the deepest alchemy happens when you can thank the person who wounded you for being your teacher. Not because it was pleasant, but because it forced you to grow in ways you would never have consciously chosen. Do we have to be grateful for having suffered? Not for suffering, but for growing. Suffering was the method. Growth is the result. Marital karma uses methods the ego would never choose, but the soul recognizes as necessary. The husband took his wife's hand for the first time in months. I think I'm beginning to understand. I don't have to be happy it happened, but I can be grateful for who I have become because of it. Exactly. And when both of you can hold this perspective, something miraculous happens. You free yourselves from repetitive karma. You no longer need to keep creating the same wounds because you have extracted the teaching. Teaching of Chapter 6. Karmic forgiveness is not forgetting. It is alchemy, transforming wounds into wisdom, pain into compassion, and resentment into gratitude for the lessons received. Chapter 7. The Temple of Sacred Intimacy, where two become one without losing individuality. On the eve of the full moon festival, a couple who had been married for 25 years arrived at the monastery. Unlike other visitors, they radiated a special serenity, yet there was a deep question in their eyes. Master Takeshi, said the woman, we have applied many of your teachings, and our marriage has been transformed, but now we feel we are standing at the threshold of something deeper. Sometimes, when we meditate together, we experience moments when the boundaries between us dissolve. What is this? Her husband added, it's beautiful, but also a little unsettling. Are we losing our individual identities? That night, under the full moon, Takeshi led them to a small, circular temple that had remained closed during their previous stay. In the center were two meditation cushions arranged in a very particular way, not facing each other, but slightly overlapping, forming a shape similar to the yin-yang symbol. "This is the temple of sacred intimacy," he said while lighting special incense. Few couples reach this place because it requires completing the earlier lessons. The couple observed the temple walls, where ancient paintings showed pairs in different forms of union. Some dancing, others meditating, others simply sitting in profound silence. "What you are experiencing," Takeshi continued, "is the awakening of true karmic intimacy, not merely emotional or physical intimacy, but soul intimacy." He sat in lotus posture before them. In ordinary marriages, two people try to find happiness together. In conscious karmic marriages, two souls recognize each other as aspects of the same higher being, experiencing temporary separation in order to remember eternal union. "Are we the same soul?" the woman asked. "You are emanations of the same source, like two rays from the same sun. The morning ray is not the same as the evening ray. Each maintains its uniqueness, yet both come from the same light." Takeshi pointed to the overlapping cushions. "Sit here. You will experience the meditation of conscious union." Once they were settled, he instructed, "Close your eyes and synchronize your breathing. Do not force anything. Simply allow your natural rhythms to align." After several minutes, their breathing was completely in sync. Now, without opening your eyes, extend your awareness toward your partner's heart. Do not invade, do not seek information. Simply acknowledge the other's presence. The silence deepened. The full moon bathed them in a soft glow. Maintain your own individuality while embracing the other's presence. You are like two candles whose flames touch without extinguishing. After 20 minutes, he asked them to slowly open their eyes. "What did you experience?" he asked. The husband spoke first, his voice soft. "At times I didn't know where I ended and where she began, but I didn't feel lost. I felt expanded. I felt the same," she added. "It was as if my heart had grown larger, able to contain both my experience and his." "This is sacred intimacy," explained Takeshi. "It is not the loss of self. It is the discovery that the self is far vaster than you ever believed. Your karmic marriage is preparing you for this expansion of consciousness." He walked over to a mural depicting two trees with interwoven canopies but separate roots. "Observe this image. The trees maintain their individual root systems, their personalities, histories, unique traits, yet their crowns have merged into a shared canopy. This is union without loss of identity." "Can every marriage reach this?" the woman asked. "All karmic marriages are evolving toward this, but at different speeds. Some require many lifetimes to reach this level of conscious intimacy. Others, like you, achieve it in a single incarnation because you have done the inner work." "And what comes after this?" asked the husband. "Is there something beyond?" Takeshi smiled mysteriously and pointed toward a small door at the back of the temple they had not noticed before. "There is a final teaching, but it transcends individual marriage. It concerns how couples who attain sacred intimacy become servants of the conscious evolution of humanity." "Do you mean our marriage has a greater purpose?" "Your personal love has been so purified that it can now serve as a channel for universal love. You become a beacon for other couples, living teachers of what is possible in human union." The moon reached its zenith, bathing the temple in silvery light. "For tonight, simply integrate this experience. Return tomorrow at sunset for the final teaching." Teaching of Chapter 7. Sacred intimacy in karmic marriage is not the loss of individuality, but the expansion of consciousness to embrace both the individual self and the unified self. Two flames that touch without extinguishing. Chapter 8. The Full Circle. where marriage becomes service to collective awakening. At the following sunset, the couple returned punctually. This time, Takeshi was waiting for them by the small door at the back of the temple, which now stood open, revealing a secret circular garden where other couples sat meditating in silence. "Welcome to the Garden of Sacred Service," he said softly. "Here gather the couples who have completed their individual karmic process and chosen to dedicate their union to the service of conscious evolution." The couples in the garden were of different ages, but all radiated a profound serenity and a palpable connection between them. "How many couples are here?" asked the woman. "This physical garden holds 12 couples from this region, but there are similar gardens around the world. We are thousands of couples who have understood the true purpose of karmic marriage." He led them to the center of the garden, where there was a special fountain. Water flowed from 2 separate springs, joined in a central basin, and then streamed into 8 channels that nourished the entire garden. "This fountain represents the completed karmic marriage," explained Takeshi. 2 individual sources unite without losing their origin, and that union nourishes everything around them. They sat by the fountain, and gradually the other couples approached, forming a circle. When a couple has healed their individual karma, the master continued. When they have transformed their wounds into wisdom, when they have reached sacred intimacy, a natural question arises. "What is our love for now?" An elder in the circle spoke. "We have been married for 40 years. The first 20 were spent learning the lessons you teach. The last 20 have been dedicated to teaching those lessons to others." His wife added, "Our home became a refuge for couples in crisis. We did not preach or advise. We simply lived conscious love, and that became a living teaching." Another younger couple shared, "We developed workshops for engaged couples. We teach them that marriage is a spiritual path, not just a social contract." Takeshi nodded. "Do you see the pattern? When personal love is fully purified, it naturally becomes universal love. Your marriage ceases to be only for yourselves and becomes a gift for the world." "But how do we know if we are ready for this service?" asked the visiting woman. "You know when you no longer need to constantly work on your relationship. When love flows effortlessly. When conflicts resolve quickly because both are committed to truth rather than being right." A middle-aged couple stepped forward. "You also know when other couples begin to seek you out naturally, without you promoting yourselves as counselors. Conscious love is magnetic." And, added Takeshi, "when you can see every marriage you encounter, whether happy or in crisis, as perfect for where those souls are in their evolution, you no longer judge imperfect marriages, because you recognize that all are perfect for the lessons they need." The sun was setting, casting a golden light that made the fountain water shine like liquid gold. "There are levels of marital service," the master continued. "Some serve by being silent examples of conscious love. Others teach directly. Some write, others build communities. But all have one thing in common. Their personal love has become transpersonal." "And if we choose not to serve in this way?" asked the husband. "There is no obligation. Some karmic marriages fulfill their purpose simply by attaining conscious union. That alone is an immense contribution to the collective field of humanity. Every couple that heals its karma raises the vibration of love across the entire planet." One of the oldest couples stood. "We have been serving in this way for 15 years. I can tell you, it has been the most fulfilling period of our marriage. When your love serves something greater than yourselves, it grows infinitely." Takeshi rose and walked toward the central fountain. "The final secret of karmic marriage is this. You came together not only to heal and evolve individually, but to contribute to the conscious evolution of humanity. Your love is a single cell in the body of humanity. When that cell is healthy, the whole body benefits." He scooped water from the fountain and let it flow through his fingers. Some of you will serve by teaching, others by healing, others simply by being beacons of possibility. But all who have completed the journey of karmic marriage become, in one way or another, servants of love with a capital L. The first star appeared in the twilight sky. Your individual journey of karmic marriage is complete when you recognize it was never individual. It was always part of a greater collective awakening. Your personal love was preparation to serve universal love. The couples in the garden joined hands, forming a human chain around the fountain. "Welcome," said Takeshi to the visiting couple, "to the full circle of karmic marriage. May your love be a blessing to all beings." Teaching of Chapter 8. The ultimate purpose of karmic marriage is to transform personal love into universal service. Couples who complete their individual healing naturally become teachers and healers for the conscious evolution of humanity. Epilogue. The Eternal Wisdom. Years later, as Master Takeshi prepared for his final transition, he dictated these words to his students. Karmic marriage is the most advanced yoga there is. It is the practice of fully loving another human being, with all their imperfections, until you recognize that this love is a reflection of the divine love you are. It is easy to love God in the temple, in nature, in silent meditation. But can you love God in the person who leaves the dishes dirty, who arrives late, who wakes up in a bad mood? That is the supreme test. Karma does not bring you together with your perfect other half. It brings you together with your perfect teacher. And you are the perfect teacher for that person. Every marriage has the potential to be a doorway to spiritual awakening. But it requires that both understand they did not marry to be happy, but to be whole. Happiness is a byproduct. Wholeness is the purpose. Always remember, you chose each other before time began. Trust in that choice, especially when you don't understand it. The soul knows things the mind will take years to grasp. And when you have completed all the lessons, when you have healed all the wounds, when you have found sacred union, then you will understand the final truth. You were never two. You were always one, playing at being two in order to remember the joy of recognition. End of the teaching. Final reflection. This Zen teaching invites us to see marriage not as a pursuit of comfort or happiness, but as the deepest and most transformative spiritual path. Every challenge is an opportunity, every conflict a lesson, and every moment of genuine love a glimpse of the eternal truth we are. Did you marry the one you were meant to marry? Zen's answer is, you married exactly the one your soul needed in order to awaken to the love you truly are.